Welcome to Allies or Enemies. I'm Jess.
And I am Sean, and today we are counting down our top 10 games of 2025.
And to make this list, we each did our top 10 games separately, then we smushed the list together. So this is the combined top 10 of 2025.
And there are a bunch of games that we haven't played from last year, so if there are things that you're expecting to see here you don't see here, there's a good chance we haven't seen it. So just let us know. You guys should really play this thing because we do want to find those. Also, some of these were provided for review. We will have a list of all of those in the description. So if you're interested in what we bought and what we reviewed, you can just check there. But you know what? Let's just get rolling with number 10.
Our number 10 is Coming of Age. And this is like Inside Out, the board game. So much so that your player boards are actually like just people's heads with the different types of emotions, starting with only having a couple at the beginning of the game and getting like access to more emotions as the game goes on.
Yeah, and this is a weird one. So this game, this is a game that I don't know if I would really suggest to other people, but I really like. And that's such a strange place for games because, like you say, it is kind of inside out the board game. And you're going to these different locations. You're kind of like having memories, and then that's affecting your emotions in a way. But all of that's really abstracted. So I don't think like the theme didn't come through as much as I hoped. There's also some weird stuff with the mechanics. So there's all these things that I'm like, oh, this feels like kind of a negative. But then at the end of the game, I'm like, that's pretty fun. And it's so much different than everything else we have.
Yeah, it took me a couple of games to warm up to this just because it played so differently from what I expected. But it is a really interesting like track management game with a unique theme.
Number 9 is Tag Team, and this is a 2-player specific auto battler where you've got all these different characters, a whole bunch of them, and you're mixing and matching them, obviously making a tag team, and you're fighting head to head, and you're kind of building up what your cards are. So each round you're getting a new card, you're adding that somewhere into your deck or whatever that's called, the thing that you're auto battling with. And so the other person knows most of the cards, but they don't know where you're sliding in that other card, which changes everything. And it's a really interesting game. I hadn't played anything like this before. I really like it.
Yeah, I really like the meta game of just trying to guess what your opponent is doing, where they're adding their cards, and how you can counteract that. And the characters all are incredibly different. So I love the asymmetry of trying to figure out how your individual characters work best and work best together too.
Yeah, I love the different characters. I think that's the selling point for me, is that it makes me think of Street Fighter and other stuff like that. I was just such a fan of Street Fighter as a kid. I'm still such a fan of Street Fighter. So I love having that mishmash. I just really like the characters in this universe, and this is our number 9.
Our number 8 is Galactic Cruise, and this is a pretty hefty game where you are like the logistics manager for organizing spacefaring cruises. And it is very much a game that feels like it was designed by Vital Lacerda, even though it wasn't.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is a very heavy game, but it still feels a little bit like a lighter end Lacerda game, which means like a brain melting game. But it's beautiful. I think that's the main thing for this, is just the production is just way over the top. Every single bit about this game and the production of this game is amazing, and it just makes the game a lot easier to play. A lot of the time I see those bells and whistles and I think I don't really want those. I just want like the simple retail edition. But here it really does make everything run a lot smoother, and for a game with this many moving parts, I'm surprised how smooth it is.
And it's incredibly variable because all of the action spaces get mixed up and paired up differently each game. And that's important because there's a specific order that you have to do things. So when different actions are paired up in a certain way, you've got to kind of think strategically about how you're going to get everything done. And it's a tough but interesting puzzle.
Number 7 is ants. And not surprisingly, in ants, you are ants. You're doing all sorts of ant stuff. You're this ant colony. You're raising up ants from eggs to larvae to full-fledged ants. And you're doing all sorts of ant things. You're building an ant hill, you're going out, you're collecting food or whatever you're collecting, you're fighting other bugs with your soldier ants, I guess. And it also has really interesting mechanics because it's kind of combining this kind of sort of worker placement thing with really interesting card play, and each turn you're choosing whether you're playing cards or you're putting out ants.
Yeah, and there's a lot of interaction as well because you're working off of a shared board. So as you're able to like explore areas, you're putting out food for everybody who has access. As you're foraging, you might be blocking off access to your opponents as well. So it is an interesting like interactive game without meanness of just kind of getting in the way or providing opportunities to others, which I like.
There is some, Jess says without meanness, and then she takes all the food and my ants all starve and I lose all sorts of points. So there is some meanness for sure, but it mostly is just getting to stuff first. There's also really interesting tableau building with those cards too. So this does feel quite a bit different from game to game. It's just got a lot going on in it, but I feel like it comes together pretty well, and that is our number 7.
Our number 6 is Peak Team. And Peak Team is a cooperative game where you're all rangers and you have to get to certain places. And how it works is at the very beginning, you have your cards, but you're not allowed to keep any of them. You have to divide your cards between the people on your left and your right. So you're really trying to make sure you're giving them things that they're going to need.
Yeah, it is interesting because you're getting your cards for the round from everybody else, and you're just hoping that they're giving you the right stuff. So people can generally kind of see where you need to go, but that's going to change too. So you got these flags all over the place. Everybody's got to manage to get to their own flags. You've also got to see all these different animals that are all over the place. And there's all these interesting different levels to this game because level 1 already is a little bit tricky, but as you build that up, there's different kinds of goals you're getting, there's different kinds of equipment that you can use, there's all these different bits to it, and it is real tough.
It is really tricky, and you absolutely have to work together. Like there's these bonuses that you can use, but you can never use your own bonus. You can only use other people's bonus. So you want to try and make sure you're all succeeding. And so it's a type of cooperative game that I hadn't seen before that I really like, and it is our number 6.
Number 5 is Emberheart. And Emberheart has got this really great system that kind of combines worker placement and bidding a little bit, because on your turn, you are putting out a pile of workers on one of the spaces in one of the 6 different areas. And then once everybody has put them out, you're going to resolve those from highest to lowest. So if you put 5 workers on one of those spaces, you're going to get first choice of whatever that is. Whereas if a bunch of people put higher than you, you may end up with nothing at all. And the stuff that you're getting is dragons. You're getting dragons, you're getting heroes, you're getting all sorts of different dragon-y things, and I really like that theme as well.
The theme definitely reminds me of How to Train Your Dragon, and I like that combined bidding mechanism because your workers are in short supply. So wherever possible, you want to spend as few as you can, but it can be really risky to only spend 1 because you may not be able to do any action.
Yeah, and you definitely don't want that. Obviously, you don't want that. It also has asymmetric player powers. It's got all of the different heroes, and I like that too because the scoring is really kind of like evolving throughout the game depending on the different stuff that you're getting, and there's just a bunch of different stuff you can do. You can collect a lot of dragons, you can try and move up the tracks on your board, you can just get a bunch of those heroes and really dive towards those goals, so it always feels a little bit different, and it is our number 5.
Our number 4 is Luthier. And this is a little bit similar to Emberheart because it combines worker placement and bidding, but in this case it is blind bidding because the different tokens that you're putting out have a number that no one else gets to see. And then once you resolve those locations, whoever has the highest number gets to resolve it first. And in Luthier, what you're trying to do is make different instruments. So you're really trying to kind of piece everything together whilst having to manage everybody else trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, and I really like how thematic this game is because you're doing all the different things you would think for instruments, where you're getting the instruments, you're roughing out the instruments, you're building the instruments, you've got different patrons that you have to make the instruments for, and it's pretty tough because you really have to think about all those different bits. You also have this kind of area control-ish thing going on where you're trying to get your instruments into the hands of the people in the big orchestra. You're playing different songs. And so there's different avenues. You're not totally set on having to do things in a certain order, but also you do kind of have to do things in an order, but in kind of a helpful way.
And it is a really beautiful game. Even the non-deluxe version looks so nice. And it's just a different theme that I hadn't seen before. And it is our number 4.
Our number 3 is Recall, and this is kind of the sequel to Revive, which is another game that I don't totally understand the theme, but it doesn't really matter because the game is super fun. And what you are doing, well, it's fun, but it also is brain melting kind of puzzly fun. So what you're doing here is you're slotting these things into these different actions, and so some of the keys that you're slotting in have stuff that they're giving you. All the different actions have stuff that they're giving you. Then you're using those actions, which are going to do stuff like move you around this board, build all of these different buildings. You're going to gain other special actions you can use. You've got a leader that gives you other actions. So from this very sloppy explanation, you can probably pick up that there are a lot of different ways to do stuff, and you're building all your different ways to do stuff as you go through the game.
Yeah, and I really like just how satisfying this game can feel sometimes because there are only 13 turns in a game, but you can do a lot on your turn because of all of those extra things. So often you'll be trying to figure out how to get one more person or how to move one more space. And you can maybe figure it out by if I activate this gadget, that lets me do that. Or if I pick up this token, then that gives me access to something else. And it can feel really satisfying when you're able to piece it together.
Yeah, and I like how it kind of builds as you go too, because at the start of the game, you only have access to these 6 very basic actions, and the keys that you're putting in don't do anything. But as you go, you get more special actions, you get things on those keys. You also get access to these 3 other leaders that all give you really big kind of game-breaking things, and the map obviously is getting explored more. This is a game that we get more out of every time we play it, and it is our number 3.
Our number 2 is Tax the Rich, and this is a very thematic trick-taking game with a class division socialism theme, and that's been incorporated, I think, really well. So for example, you can't lead with the highest value card because that's the president who's an incompetent leader. And if you only have low value cards left in your hand, then you can declare a revolution, and then it's the lowest value card that wins.
Yeah, and it's also got this interesting thing where at the start of the game you're bidding, and that bidding is both deciding what is the best suit. It's also going to, in the end, decide who is on a team together. So when you're doing that bidding, you're saying we can win 8 out of the 12 tricks or whatever that is. And maybe no one else thinks that you can, but then you say whoever has the whatever card is on my team, and they're forced to be on your team whether they like it or not. And I really like that part because now it's all right, fine. I don't think we can do it, but now I do think we can do it because we have to do it.
And there's also these cards that get added each round that change one of the types of cards to break the game in a certain way. And so this is our number 2.
Our number 1 is Vantage, and this is a surprising number one. Even though I picked this as number one, it's a surprise to me because this is usually not the sort of game that I would play. This is kind of a storytelling game. This is kind of a sandboxy game. This is a game that doesn't necessarily have an ending. It does have an ending, but you can kind of smudge that. You can kind of keep playing. You can go for kind of different sorts of endings. You can just kind of wander around in a world. But I really appreciate that this game really does something different, something that just feels new, and it just feels like kind of an achievement in gaming.
Yeah, it definitely does. And it's this whole world that's been built. And it's an interesting world because we've played this a ton and there's still a lot of stuff that I don't know or understand that makes me want to keep going back and keep exploring as well. And it can feel so different because there's over 1,500 cards. So many different things that you can add and collect and different ways that you can interact in the world that it makes it interesting to try different approaches each time you play.
Yeah, and it plays really different too, like depending on what you build up as well, because you kind of end up with like a lot of different slots for red or a lot of different slots for green. So then you do red stuff, which is super aggressive, or you do green stuff, which is a lot nicer and about building. And you've got these really different goals every single game. And like you say, it's just the different stuff that you find that you're like, oh my goodness, how is this whole giant thing here that I haven't come across in like 12 previous games? And that is just such an interesting thing that you can find these corners of this world that you think you know, and it has so much more to offer. So this is not for everybody. I was surprised it was for me, but this was for us this year at least, and this is our number one. And that is it. That is our top 10 games for 2025. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff we haven't played yet. We always kind of do a follow-up to this somewhere halfway through next year where we'll re-look at this with all of those other games. But for now, what games do you agree with? What games do you not agree with? What games do you think we missed and we need to go find and play?
Yeah, please put those in the comments. And as usual, please like, subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you next time for another game.